of the content covered may be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Witchcraft.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely it's really
just
I love stories like this because it's someone scared to death.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Just there are countless horror stories.
People that you shouldn't fuck with, right? And the JFK assassination, all
Too real.
Good evening, everybody, from the Mistake on the Lake, deep within the Great American Rust Belt. You're in the right place at the right time. This is T3TV, and I'm your host, John Bedzinski, alongside Dan Rady.
What in the freaking hell is up?
It is, and Steve Buddha Gibson.
The freaking hell, he says.
It's the freaking weekend. And, of course, blazing in the chat rooms, Lawrence of the Simpson. Good evening to you.
Hold on to your butts.
All right. Today is Wednesday, October 21st, 2021.
Today is Thursday.
What?
You fucktard.
Yeah, no, you know what? You're right. But
oh boy,
it is Future Day. So, but that was 6 years ago. So the future's now in the past.
What the fuck does that even mean?
So
what are you talking about?
Today is the day that Marty and Doc went to in the future in Back to the Future Part 2.
Today or yesterday?
October 21st, 2015.
But was it a Wednesday or a Thursday?
It was a Wednesday. But
okay.
Obviously, the future is now 6 years ago because it was 2015 in the movie. Still no flying cars, at least yet. Or hoverboards.
It's a lot different than that movie predicted.
Yeah. Although
Very much.
Video calling was on there. So that was, they got that.
Yeah,
they were still using fax machines.
Video calling was in RoboCop, though, so that doesn't really count.
RoboCop came after, but
not part.
But it was set in the past.
RoboCop.
Well, for the time, it was set in the present, but it would be in the past compared to the future of Back to the Future.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dan.
I say the cop cars they use in RoboCop, ugly fucking Ford Tauruses. And those were futuristic looking at the time.
I thought they had Crown Vics in it. They were Tauruses?
The first one, I don't know about the other one, but the first one was Tauruses. Yep.
I don't remember. But that was, what's his name? Kurtwood Smith? The dad from that 70s show? He was the bad guy in the first one.
Red Foreman?
Yeah.
Yep.
Remember, which one was the one with Nuke? Like the drug that everyone was doing? Was that 3?
3 was the Splatterpunks, or Splatterpunks, Slaughterpunks. Which one was it?
I thought it was 3.
Splatterpunk. No,
yeah,
3.
They were doing
3 was the
drug.
Splatterpunks and OCP.
But they had like that drug.
Was that
Nuke.
the first one?
I don't know. But
I'm trying to think now. I can't remember. It's been so
RoboCop
damn long.
2. It was RoboCop 2.
Well, oh yeah.
It was 2.
Gotcha. Yeah. And didn't they remake it in like 2014 or something like that?
Oh, it was. I want to forget that. It was atrocious.
Like most remakes.
It was one of those.
Yeah.
That franchise was like one of my all-time favorites growing up. And I was like, man, I know this remake's going to be bad, but it's like a rainy day. There's nothing going on. I'm going to watch this. And it was just like a fucking abortion. It was just terrible. Like most, but...
Yeah, like they all are.
Yeah. I saw it in the theater, too. It's very forgettable. I don't remember a whole lot about it. I think around the same time, didn't they do a Die Hard 5 or whatnot, too?
I don't remember.
I lost track.
I think with that RoboCop remake, I got the vibe they were trying to go for like a Judge Dredd kind of vibe.
I mean, Al likes the Judge Dredd remake or whatnot with Carl Urban.
They remade Judge Dredd?
Yeah, without Stallone. I think they made 2 of them.
Where the fuck was I?
Yeah, because Carl Urban, who played Bones on the Star Trek remakes, played Dredd. Yeah, Dredd 2. Oh, no. They haven't made it yet. Did they? Yeah, no, they only made one. So,
Yeah, 2012.
yeah. But Al said it was great. And he's a tough critic.
Yeah, he is. Who is Carl Urban?
He played Bones on the Star Trek remakes in since 2009.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah. So, he
has a weird face.
It's
like
very
a puppet.
marionette. So yeah. But speaking of Al, we've been playing Back for Blood every night this week. And I like it. You got on last night. What'd you think?
I only got into it for like an hour though. I'm like one of those people where if I jump between games, it takes me a minute to get used to it. So like to me, the controls just felt really kind of clunky.
Yeah. Well, I liked it.
Can you adjust the sensitivity on it?
I believe so. I mean, they have a lot of customization you do right at the beginning of it.
That could also be a thing. But like I said, dude, I mean, I'm coming off playing Diablo, which is you don't really have to like aim quickly or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it always takes me a second when I jump. That's why I usually just play one game all the way through and then I move because I'm apparently retarded and I can't adapt.
But yeah, that spot where we have to let the people get on the buses and we were like starting the jukebox in the bar, that was the shit.
I definitely feel like the Left 4 Dead vibes, but Left 4 Dead to me felt way more fast paced.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because the levels in there seem so short in Back 4 Blood.
Well, there's more of them. There's more acts, but they're shorter. The game time probably might be the same duration.
But it just feels like as you're going through each section, like they feel very short. Whereas like Left 4 Dead, it might only be like four chapters per act or whatever.
Right.
But it's like each thing is way longer.
Right. Yeah. But I like the fact that it is cross-platform and cross-gen. So the fact that you and I could play was pretty cool.
Also, the amount of customization, like with your equipment, I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Except that I don't like that you can't save it.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I mean, dude, what did we play for? Maybe an hour and a half yesterday.
Yeah, almost 2 hours.
If that. Yeah. If you guys are jumping on this weekend, I'll definitely do that.
What about tonight?
Well, I can't Saturday. I got a wedding Saturday, but no, not tonight.
Come on.
I got to get up. I got to go to. I got to try to get to this job really early tomorrow because I have to leave like half a day and I'm trying to wrap it tomorrow.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, Dan, take the helm. Buddha and I are going to go play.
Call us when you're ready.
Yeah. All righty then. I'll do my story and I'll cut the stream.
Speaking of remake type stuff, did you guys see the trailer for the Uncharted movie?
Not yet, no.
Did you even play the series?
I did. I played I think 3 and 4. I didn't play the first one or the second one.
Okay, well the series is phenomenal. You did play the first one?
Yeah, just barely, but a little bit of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking phenomenal. Just like the voice acting and everything is great. And the trailer, I know it's supposed to be a prequel. Actually, me and Al were talking about this today. And he put it kind of like the best way. He's like, they picked the least manly dude to play Nathan Drake and the youngest looking old guy to play Sully, which is Mark Wahlberg. And I mean, it might be cool. You never know. It's a prequel, so I feel like every time studios get like that creative control to do whatever they want with the story, it's always just like pandering or some type of just shit show in general. Right. But it might be cool. I don't know.
Did you see the pictures from the Last of Us set?
I did.
Why are they making this? There is no reason to make this a television show.
Because
it's just a cash grab. Like, because the game itself was like watching or playing a movie. Like the story was told well enough in the game. Why do they need to tell it again?
Well, see, this was always like my problem with any movie that they would make that was based on a video game is like the script is there. The fucking scenes are there, and they always take these liberties and just change everything. And the reason people love it so much is because it was the game. So they always deviate from the fucking story of the game.
Right.
And it turns out like shit. Like even when they do movie adaptations of books, like, dude, for instance, we've talked about this before, but like Ready Player One, that book was fucking phenomenal. And the movie was just like this terrible attempt at crowd service and like, once again, just pandering bullshit. I mean, it was Ready Player One in name only. Like, it was just atrocious.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. Like, you have the blueprint of what makes this thing so fucking perfect and that everybody loves, and you're just like, nah, I'm good. I'm just gonna figure this out. And we're just gonna make it up as we go.
Some things just can't translate well. And think about how long that book is and how many pages and how much detail is in there.
Did you read it?
No, but I mean, a lot of books I feel like don't translate to movie well. Some do, some don't. But you gotta think of an example. Shawshank Redemption is like a novella by Stephen King. It's a short story in a group of other stories. So there was a really good framework for a nice long movie, and I think that helped that it wasn't like this giant long book. But at the same time, like in the game for Last of Us, there is just so much that happens slowly that you can't. I mean, I guess they're going to try and do it over a TV show, but it's just like you have to make decisions and choices in the game, and a lot of it's it's not choice-based gameplay, but it really makes you question whether you're doing is right or wrong as you're doing it. Like there is only one path to the end of the game, but at the same time, even like the relationships, like at first, he doesn't really want to take her cross country and do all this stuff, but by the end of the story, he considers her a daughter. Like, so spoiler alert, I guess. I don't know.
Well, if you haven't played the first one by now, shame on you.
Yeah.
It came out on
Get outta
PS3. That's like saying you haven't played Alan Wake until the remake or the remaster.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't know why to me it's just another cash grab. And
that's what I was going to say.
And like they said, like we hit this second golden age of television in the mid to late 2000s. I feel like there's just an overabundance of like content out there now between like user created content and like studio created content that now it's just becoming like oversaturated, and I'm just not interested in anything. I don't know.
Well,
That's how I
think, like,
feel.
a
I
huge
can't
part
watch
of it is,
TV at
like-
all. Like, a lot of the stuff you guys.
Round one, fight.
I
Hello?
couldn't tell if he was cutting out because you were cutting out when it was going. So
Yeah.
I didn't know if he stopped talking or he was cutting out.
Dan.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot the hell I was actually saying.
You don't watch TV.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Thank you. Short-term memory here. Yeah, I don't watch much TV because I just can't stand. There's so much crap on the television. I mean, and you brought up a good point. I mean, there's studies showing now that the big networks are no longer, people are not tuning in like it used to be. You want to watch a TV show or a movie, you got in front of your television, the whole family would get in front of their television and watch it, right? I mean, now you got a whole family and people are in 14 different rooms in the house on different devices watching whatever the hell they want. It's like, because of how that's taking effect now in the last 4 or 5 years or whatever,
Yeah.
it feels like it feels like the actual interest level, like you were saying, of anything coming on television, especially with the networks, like the main networks. I'm not talking about cable.
But like, think about NCIS, all these, like how many different variations, Law and Order, it's all the same stuff.
Well, how about-
What's going
how
on
about-
a million years?
How about, I feel like I've lost brain cells watching. I saw one episode of The Masked Singer. Don't tell me one of you guys like The Masked Singer.
No.
I don't even
Okay,
have
good.
TV.
Okay, I happened to see one episode, and I'm like, well, I now feel like I killed off, maybe 100 or 150 brain cells. It was the stupidest shit I ever saw in my life, and it's popular.
We're doomed. We
are.
are doomed. All right. Well, Buddha, did you want to add anything? Sorry, I was stuttered.
Oh, it was just kind of. I think something we've touched on before is like really now it's all about just who can get something out first, then rather taking the time of making it good, and then on top of that, like everyone, the world is like moving and evolving so fast that like the attention span for people is what they say in basketball. The attention span can be measured in nanoseconds. It's true though. I mean, dude. You jump from one game to the next game to the next game because there's video games that come out every single week. It's just like there's movies that come out every single week, and it's all on demand. So you don't have to wait. Oh, it's premiering this time. You just get it, and then it's basically there forever. It's not like tune in at Thursday at 7, and then you have to wait until the following week that they might show it again. I think that comes into play. But really, it just comes down to people are fucking lazy. And they just go, oh, that sold well. Let's. I don't have to come up with an original idea.
Right.
I could just like bootleg that or take that idea and just make it completely different, but still say it's this. I guess technically that could be considered an original idea, but basically they just take a good, well-written story and say, how can I make it worse? And then they make a movie out of it or a TV show. Like, dude, aren't they doing a prequel to Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
And
Amazon.
it's like fucking why? Like, stop interjecting all
Think
of
about
this.
the person that bought a book off of Amazon in like 98. Now that company is doing a TV show. Like,
right.
unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just there's too much out there, and I mean, we could also say that we're contributing right now to the mass amount of content that is out there.
Stupid babble.
Yeah, just verbal diarrhea out in the interwebs. So
Yeah, I make it a policy not to watch any remakes of anything. I've seen so much of it. So much of it is just trash and shit and garbage. And when you take an original idea, and try to redo it,
Yeah.
it just, especially with different actors and different people, and especially when it's in different times. Imagine if they try to make a Back to the Future now.
no, that will never happen.
I'm just saying.
Bob
Don't
Gale and
never
Robert
say never.
Zemeckis they have it in their. They own the rights to the movie,
Okay.
or not the rights, but I think they without their permission, it can never be done. And I
That's
think they had
good.
that built into their contracts, and so they've tried many times to either do a reboot or a fourth one, and they both have said no. And it's like that is going
good.
that is going to be passed on to their families after their deaths too. So, not gonna happen. Thank God.
That's good. Well, that's one good thing, yeah, because there's too many movies that have been just like that Dukes of Hazzard. I loved watching the Dukes of Hazzard when I was a kid, and that movie came out and it was an absolute monstrosity. It was awful. The A-Team, garbage. All these movies that came out trying to imitate the shows from the 80s. You can't do it. They're different times.
Yeah.
It's a different era.
What would you? All right, if you had to pick, one had to be remade. Dukes of Hazzard, Rockford. Who you picking?
Oh man,
Because it's gonna happen.
Rockford-
It's like a gun to the head. Like which one's dying?
Well, man, I would have to say you'd have to try to do Dukes of Hazzard because any moronic these freaking goofy ass actors out there now, they could play the Duke boys. But Rockford, man, ain't nobody taking James Gardner's place. Nobody on the planet.
All right. Let's do a couple news stories and then we'll get into tonight's campfire. All right. So I just got a couple random ones. This one's music related, kind of, sort of. Buddha's gonna love this. Grateful Dead T-shirt auctioned off for a record-breaking $17,640. A Grateful Dead t-shirt from the band's original merchandise was auctioned at a record-breaking price. The 1967 shirt sold at Sotheby's from the Vault property up from the Grateful Dead and Friends sold for $17,640, setting a new world record for the most money spent on a vintage rock t-shirt. The previous record was set in 2011 when a vintage Led Zeppelin shirt, another one of Buddha's favorite bands, was sold for $10,000 on eBay. The Grateful Dead shirt was one of the band's first pieces of official merchandise and was designed by Alan Gut Turk, a Hells Angel and graphic artist who was a prominent figure in California's counterculture movement in the 1960s. The winning bidder, Bo Bushnell, operates the Outlaw Archive account on Instagram, which is dedicated to 1960s motorcycle culture. Bushnell wrote on the page, he had purchased a shirt to keep memory of Gut Turk alive and to keep his history together under one roof. Huh, that's interesting. I had no idea that that was designed by Hell's Angel. That's kind of interesting. Also, looking here, the fact that a shirt could sell for $17,000. I mean, I guess it's like a piece of rock history. So
It's like a piece of toilet paper. Both of those bands.
What do you think Buddha's shirt's going to be worth?
the Loudness shirt.
Loudness shirt. Yeah, Loudness shirt.
With or without sleeves.
Well, it
Without.
doesn't have any. You'd have to sew them on.
If I sold t-shirts, I would sell a sleeveless version, and then I would sell a sleeved version, but it would just look like my arms with a sleeveless shirt.
Oh, man. Drive the ladies wild.
Yeah. I didn't realize, like I said, I mean,
I'd get you one, Dan.
I can't
I would
tell-
take it.
It's like a yellow gold with, I can't tell if it's like a black or a green print. I'm colorblind, but like a dark green, but interesting. There's a really cool book out there of like vintage rock t-shirts and stuff. And when I saw a guy speak once who did a lot of bootlegging of t-shirts back in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s of like rock t-shirts, and some of his shirts were actually in that book. It was kind of cool. But yeah, I used to be really into like this rock memorabilia stuff. I never purchased anything, but I always thought it would be interesting to...
Have you ever been to the Rock Hall?
Yeah.
It sucks. And I don't even mean that to be like, you know, an asshole. Like, it's fucking terrible.
Now, do you say that because it has nothing of your era of music that you like, or...
No, I say that because when you start incorporating, for one, bands that aren't fucking rock bands into it, they should... If they just called it the Music Hall of Fame, the whole place would have much more meaning.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
But, like,
It's-
they have...
They're
It's like...
doing it as a rock and roll state of mind kind of thing.
It's honestly, it's like walking into a bigger, more elaborate version of a hard rock. That's what it is.
Yeah. I don't know. I've only been there a couple times, but I like seeing that stuff. But you know, I mean, there are pieces of like Michael Jackson. They have his stuff there. They had a Lady Gaga's meat dress when I was there last. Let's see what else. I mean, they also had when I was there, they had a Rolling Stones exhibit I thought was kind of cool. But then they also had, like, when I was also there too, they had a like a grunge section, like dedicated to all the Seattle bands. And I thought that was kind of cool. It's just interesting to me to see the stuff that was there, you know, when some of these like iconic pieces of music or culture were created. There's actually a really cool documentary that Dave Grohl did on the
Neve.
Yeah, and just how many like famous like tracks got their life through those channels. You know what I mean?
That was Sound City, wasn't it?
Yeah, Sound City.
Yeah, check that documentary out if you haven't seen it. It's super cool. And then he actually does
He keeps
does,
the
like-
board. He bought it.
but he does like collaborations. I'm not talking to you, John. I'm talking to the two people that we have listening. but he does do collaborations with some of the artists that actually use that board, which is really cool. Sound City, check that one out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Isn't Foo Fighters actually getting inducted this week or whatever?
They
Or
are.
Whenever they're doing it.
Are they? I never
I'm
could get into that
surprised.
band. I always wanted to, just because Dave Grohl always seemed like a cool dude. But I just, man, I have tried so many times, and I just can't get into their music.
They have a couple of really, really good songs. They're hit and miss for me. But I'm surprised there are so many other bands that have not been inducted before, the Foo Fighters. Like, I think of bands like Huey Lewis and the News. They were huge. They did not get in there yet. Kiss is still not in there, obviously.
I think ELO's not in there. They should be.
What about the Cult? Firewoman.
Well, I think they should be, but they just never hit a mainstream, just not mainstream enough to get into. I don't think, but
I was listening to Firewoman the other day.
such a great song,
Yeah.
best song ever.
Every
made.
time it comes on, I think of you because I know it's like you said. It's what your favorite song, if not.
It's
one of
literally
them.
my ultimate favorite song of all time. Yep.
Yeah. That drum break in the bridge. Oof.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
Fantastic. Yes. All right. Moving on. Let's see here. This happened. NASA explains fireball that flew over Michigan this week. A fireball witnessed by more than 80 people in Michigan was not a meteor, NASA confirmed. According to the agency's Meteor Watch, the rocket fireball was a satellite re-entering Earth's atmosphere. The bright, long-lasting fireball was spotted around 12:43 p.m. on October 20th. And that is it. So, yeah, I guess there was a fireball over Michigan this week, but it was just a satellite re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. Again, more space junk. At what point, does something fall back in? And, is that the intention for it to eventually fall back in and just burn up? I don't know.
What if something happened that just annihilated, didn't do anything to Earth, didn't hurt Earth, but what if some kind of space event happened that just took out every single satellite in the sky? What would that cause for planet Earth?
Wait, what?
If some kind of, I know this is kind of what we were talking about a couple weeks ago, but if some kind of space event happened, something in space that took out every single satellite up in space, right? What would that mean for America? For not America, but for the planet, because we rely on satellites so much for everything practically.
We'd be in deep trouble, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that was.
Did you see, I don't know if you guys heard or whatnot in the news, that China had tested a missile that could basically beat out America's missile defense system?
Yeah, I saw that. They said it's capable of going basically all the way around.
Travels
And-
25,000 miles an hour.
But so there's this whole thing now where it's like we need to. I saw an article that said the U.S. needs to basically figure out how to develop nuclear rockets because we're going to need that to get to Mars before China. And I'm like, the fuck? How about you fix the fucking planet you're on before you decide to figure out how to go to another one?
Well, it's a good argument.
Yes, let's make more bombs.
All right, here's the last news story I had for tonight. It was kind of a slow news day. Well, they found Santa Claus, just so you know. I'm talking about they found Brian Laundrie. So, all right, let's see. Doctors fooled the human body into accepting a pig kidney transplant. A team of surgeons at NYU's Langone Health Medical Center recently managed to successfully transplant a pig kidney into a human patient without the body's rejecting the organ. The first major operation of its kind, and one that apparently is raising a lot of human eyebrows. Human. They put it in parentheses here. Although similar tests have been conducted using non-human primates, as well as the fact that a pig heart valves have been used on human transplants for some time, this is by far the most advanced procedure on record. as reported by the BBC, said donor pig had previously been genetically modified so that its kidney would essentially fool its mammalian cousin's body into accepting it. Is it creepy? Not only the experiment human is technically brain dead with no prospect of recovering, so yeah, it's very seasonally appropriate. Science news story. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think this might be a good thing, though. The fact that we don't have to necessarily wait for a human donor if we can use, But I don't know. Is this going to raise a bunch of eyebrows with animal rights activists? I don't know.
Well, okay, so just to spin that conversation, like, why do you think that it's okay to kill an animal or, kill
For food.
Basically that, but also then to say, oh no, this person needs an organ or whatever. Let me go slaughter this pig right quick. Where do you draw the line, I guess, when it comes to the animal rights stuff? Because, really, to get on the side of, I guess, to explain my stance is, I think it's okay to hunt for food and whatnot, but I do think it's really fucked up to have just these super inhumane slaughterhouses. Just I don't know. To me, that shit is fucking disgusting.
But are you a hypocrite from eating from them?
Absolutely, I absolutely am.
Okay,
but
well, at least
I'm not arguing one way or the other. I'm just making the point. Where do you draw the line for basically that whole human or animal rights stance?
Yeah, I don't know what they even. I mean, that's actually a great question, because I mean, there's always going to be animal rights activists for killing animals to eat. I mean, that's always going to happen, right? And I think if something like this could be perfected to save human life, I mean, that's pretty amazing. I don't know that there would be that much of an animal activist push or a backlash, I guess you want to say, if it was perfected to help out.
Yeah,
everybody's going to have something to say until they're the one on the operating table, is what it comes down to.
I was just going to say that. Yep.
And that's the thing too. I've watched a lot of things about hunting. I've never done it. I don't think I could do it, but I know that a lot of people that are very serious about hunting also talk about that it's. And I'm not saying every hunter, but a lot of them, it's almost like a spiritual thing too, in some way, where after the animal is deceased, they'll pray for the animal, and they'll thank whatever deity or being or universe for the animal, and they know that this animal's life was taken to help theirs. So it's not just, hey, let's go out and kill some stuff. It's
I do absolutely think you're a piece of shit if you're into trophy hunting, though.
Oh yeah, well, that Jimmy John's guy.
Yeah, those people that go to Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? They're just living, and
Right.
No need.
Well, that stuff is. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, the ones that go to the safari and they kill a poor innocent giraffe or an elephant or something. They're doing that for sport, and that is absolutely, like you just said, that's fucking disgusting.
So what do you think about the wild hog or the feral hogs in Texas that are not? They say that it's a problem because it's impacting livestock. It's impacting. Crops.
Yeah, they destroy your crops. They they are what would be considered a nuisance or a pest. And dude, those things get big and they're fucking mean.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, if you go out and you're protecting your property or whatnot, or you're trying to grow some food and they're fucking destroying your crops, yeah, I think especially if you're a provider of food for other people, I would think that probably what's happening there, and don't quote me because I don't know, but if you're taking out those hogs, you're probably also sending them to get slaughtered or sending them to get butchered. I would think.
No, I think they just let them. I think they just let them rot there.
No, you can't just leave it there to rot because then you're just going to get scavengers to come in.
Yeah.
Either way, like it's back to the trophy hunting thing. Like a lot of those places, that's like their main source of income for the area. So that's why they're taking like these huge amounts of money and then they go out with a guide or whatnot, because a lot of times it's in places where they don't produce anything, you know? So for some guy to come in and pay 10 grand to go on a hunt, like that's the, basically that's the whole economic break, or you know what I'm trying to say? Like that's the sole, I'm sorry, dude. I'm so fucking brain dead tonight.
Income,
but you guys know what I'm trying. That's basically the economy right there. Is
right, you're
people
right.
coming
I gotcha.
in, yeah.
But no, the other thing too is like sport fishing too, and you know, if you're gonna go out and catch a big fish, like catch the fish, take the picture, but throw it back in. Like, what, you know, why you gotta kill it? Hang it on your wall.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna eat it.
I mean, if you're going to eat it, that, you know, but if you're just doing it so that you can mount it on your wall, it's kind of shitty.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So. It's kind of weird, too. Like, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Well, do you consider deer an invasive species here?
They can be.
In fucking Parma Heights, yeah.
Dude.
Why don't you ask Natalie? They keep eating their fucking flowers.
Oh. Well, yeah, that would get frustrating.
I think, was it like 5-6 years ago over the Cuyahoga Valley, they actually instituted a thing that they needed that was getting so out of hand with the overpopulation with deer that the rangers, or not rangers, but the rangers and
the Park Service.
Park Service, yeah, they went out and they had to do a control thing. They had to kill a lot of them, you know, population control type thing.
Close the parks at night and then they go in there and hunt them.
Yep, because they were just out of control. So that's a different story. That's a totally different thing. Well, like you were talking about the pigs and that. I mean, I understand that it sucks, but I do understand why they got to do situations like that. But just to do it for sport is just like you were saying. It's hogging. And fishing. I tried to fish 2 times, and I am telling you right now, I am not built for sitting in a fucking boat, bored out of my mind, just for hours looking at the water with a pole in my hand. It just is the most boring fucking thing on the planet.
You can do that in your room.
I can do that in my room. Absolutely. Yeah, I can put while watching Rockford.
Talking about the kind of like the whole like something being a nuisance or a pest or whatever. Like, have you ever heard of the chimpanzee war?
No.
So this was I don't remember when it was, but basically there was a troop. I think it would be called a troop, whatever the fuck. It was a group of like chimps, and they were there was like a little bit of hostility in them, and like they split off into the one group of chimps actually set out and stalked the other group and just fucking slaughtered them. And that was like the first time that it was observed pretty much like a human like quality in these chimps, where it was almost like vindictive, like, oh, you fucking left me, like I'll fucking show you. And they pretty much just set out like in a group and just went to slaughter this other fucking chimps that abandoned them. And they really like, I don't remember because it's been a while since I read the story, but I think they slaughtered the males and then brought the females back to the troop, or it was something like that. But kind of back to the whole, like, if it's a nuisance or a pest, like even animals, you know, if something's encroaching on their territory, they're going to fucking either leave or they're going to, you know, basically handle it. And it's just kind of odd or fascinating in a way that like these chimps, it's not like they just let them go and then they ran into them once. It was like, no, they made it a point to like hunt them down and fucking slaughter them. And I think they were using like stones and shit too. We're not that different.
No. So I'm getting a notification from YouTube that says our stream quality is poor, but I'm not seeing it.
It definitely keeps cutting out from what I'm hearing.
I know. The whole thing Buddha just said cut out on me. I barely heard what he even said.
I I don't want to. I mean, I got full signal here. We're back up.
Just keep rolling with it.
Yeah. So, stream is healthy. All right, it's back. We're back. Good evening, everybody. All right, well, that was it for news. Buddha, you want to? I'm passing the baton to you.
John. All right, so have either of you guys ever heard of the bystander effect? I don't know why that's relevant.
Sorry. Well,
I have not.
Car crashing. Sorry.
So it's probably something that you may have either. I know you've for sure seen it, but you may have actually been a part of it. You know, potentially one or more times in your life. And so what the bystander effect is, it's also like it's called the diffusion of responsibility. And what it is a social psychological theory that states that an individual's likelihood of helping decreases when passive bystanders are present in an emergency situation. And this is something that you see like every single day now, where there's people getting fucking attacked or murdered or robbed. And instead of people jumping in to help them, they all just stand back and film it, or they stand back and just wait to see if somebody else is going to actually make that first move. And the whole thing about this is that the more people that are there, like the bigger the crowd, the more that each individual in that crowd is going to start to feel like, well, I'm not going to do anything because somebody else here will, as opposed to like, you know, if it's like a 1-on-1 or maybe a 2-on-1 where you're walking down the street and somebody faints, or, you know, somebody gets mugged or is in the process of getting mugged. Like if it's just you and you're not a fucking pussy, like you're going to, you know, try to intervene and like lend whatever help you can. But as that number grows, you know, each person is looking basically to the person next to them saying, they're going to do it. They're going to take care of it. That is what the bystander effect is. And that's my story. Not really. But, so the reason that this was actually coined is, I'm going to tell you the story why right now. And it was because of the murder of a woman named Kitty Genovese that actually led to the bystander effect and the 911 system. So Catherine Genovese was a 28-year-old woman who was brutally murdered outside of her Queens apartment in New York City on March 13th, 1964. Her attack lasted around 30 minutes. She was stabbed 14 times by a man named Winston Mosley. And it was originally reported that there was like 37 people that either watched it happen or heard the cries for help, and they basically just ignored it, you know, and just kind of the whole thing of, well, someone else is going to intervene, and they never did. Or by the time they did, it was just far beyond too late. So this murder was actually what was considered like the main reason of why we have like the 911 emergency system today, and which is what actually led to the discovery of the bystander effect. And this is kind of the details of what actually happened. So around 3 a.m, it was around 3 a.m. when Genovese arrives home from managing a local bar where she worked. And she parks her car, she starts walking towards her apartment building, and she notices a man that was just standing at the corner on the end of the parking lot. So she's kind of like waiting nervously, and she's kind of walking nervously. And at this point, Mosley he just kind of caught up to her close to her apartment building, and then he just starts stabbing her. So she's screaming for help, and just nobody's coming. And it says, like, you know, according to various reports, a man heard Genevieve's screams only and just shuts his window, shouts, God damn, I'm sorry, I am fucking brain dead, shouts out of his window for the man to leave her alone. And it's like you hear someone you don't know that she's being stabbed, but, you know, like you hear someone being attacked and someone like screaming for help, and all you do is you just, you know, you're just like, hey, knock it off, you two. And then you just like go back into your apartment. So it says after he stabs her, you know, like 14 times, he just walks back to his car. And it says Genevieve's, barely makes it to her feet and just kind of is like staggering her way around the building towards her apartment. And she's struggling, like trying to get to her door. And, before she can even get to her door, Mosley actually comes back to make his final attack. And he's just basically going to town on her. He keeps on stabbing her. So it says a neighbor finally called the police, but it wasn't until like 3:50 a.m., which was, much too late to save Genevieve's life. So if you take into consideration that she was coming home at around 3 in the morning and then she gets attacked, and that while all of this has happened and she's been attacked and being stabbed, but the phone or the call to the police wasn't until 3:50. So even if she didn't get attacked right away, let's just assume 30 to 40 minutes had gone. This dude probably stabs her, leaves, comes back and stabs her again, and then still has time to go before anybody even bothers to call the cops. So it says when responders and police arrived, there were only two neighbors on the street. One of them was a 70-year-old woman that cradled Genevieve as basically until she died. And not long after the murder, New York Times published an article written by a journalist named Martin Gansberg with the headline, 37 who saw murder didn't call the police. And then he just went on to describe, pretty much what happened with the case and the murder, and just kind of like the lack of any response or action from any of the 37 people that witnessed it. Now, by saying 37, it doesn't mean like there was 37 people staring at her while it happened, but it was either they heard the screams or they saw something. Point being is that still no one intervened. Now, it does get a little different where, like, depending on which articles you read, it kind of says like there's no concrete evidence that there was actually, 30 some bystanders that witnessed or attacked or whatever. But it's just that was just kind of like the number that was thrown out. So it says, upon further investigation, the facts have appeared to become considerably different. When questioned, neighbors told the police they thought it was a drunken quarrel or a domestic dispute, and they just wanted to stay out of it. However, there was doubtlessly inaction, and those who did hear Genevieve's cry for help did not act until it was too late. So, point being is that even if there was 1 people, 2 people, 10 people, yet again, still, no one ever intervened with the story or with the attack. Even if it was domestic violence, I still find that kind of odd. Even if you saw somebody getting their ass kicked, like a dude beating the shit out of his girlfriend or his wife, nowadays, and if you saw that on the street, like the majority of people are still just going to walk by and be like, I don't want no part of that. Like, that's just such a fucked up mentality to take. But anyway, so it says, regardless of the countless stories that were reported about Genevieve's murder, many questions remain unanswered even 50 years later. So this story ended up pretty much going nationwide, and a bunch of psychologists were starting to look at it and go like, well, why didn't people actually want to help, or why didn't they respond? So this is kind of when they started looking into this case as to why nobody did anything, and then that's why the bystander effect was the actual coined term by psychologists, and I'm going to butcher this name, Bib Latagnier and John Darley. And then it just kind of goes to reiterate that the bystander effect occurs when the greater number of people who witness a person in need of emergency help, the less likely an observer will take action. And pretty much this is kind of taught in psychology classes all the time nowadays because it's just something that's come to be known. And it says, while the murder of Genevieve became the subject of significant news over the last 50 years, it is known less for the details of the murder itself than it is for the circumstances that followed, which are, from her death came, not only the bystander effect, but also the 911 emergency system and the Good Samaritan laws. And before 1968, the only way to reach the police was by dialing 0 to reach an operator in hopes they were not too busy to transfer your call to the police. So there was no direct line to actually calling the cops, which is crazy because if you're talking about the times of switchboard operators, it's like, man, like what if they just have a busy night and it's like you're not getting that emergency help, which is kind of, oh, go ahead.
Yep. I'll say it's funny you say that, but I do like watching. As we all know, I love watching a lot of old freaking shit from the '70s, and a lot of those old TV shows and movies and that. It's funny when someone has to call the cops, especially like old stuff or like late '60s, early '70s. They're not saying call 911. You see them pick up the phone.
point.
They say, "I need the police department," and then they call the police department, and then they're on hold. And so many of these TV shows, I wonder if that's the way it was back then. Like the police would put them on hold for a while until they got through.
Wow, I never really thought about that. Huh?
Yeah, because 911 started
I
what?
think a
mid-70s,
lot more of.
Huda?
No, it said 68.
That's how old 911 is. Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was.
See, before 1968, the only way was to reach them was by dialing 0. So
You know what I think it was? I think it was what I'm thinking of is it took a long time for it to actually spread around the whole United States. I think there was only sections of the country that did it. I think is what it was.
I'm sure like anything.
Side
Yeah.
note, real quick, I just thought this popped into my head the other day. I wonder, when did you get your first cell phone? Mine was like 03.
I was 16, so 03.
Yeah. Like, think about
98.
this. Realistically, the last time you picked up a landline, I can't remember. How many people, like, dial tone is going to be like one of these distant memories, like a VHS tape.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, now it's just you hit the button and it's already ringing. So, like, nobody knows, dial tone. It's
a good
crazy.
You know and also the that fucking terrifying sound that you hear when you leave the phone off the hook.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That
Fuck.
you don't hear that anymore.
Pressing buttons on a phone is gone.
Or the rotary phones.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rotary phone or like cordless phones.
But, like, there's still tone because for at least actual, touch tone, because when you're typing stuff in for, like, when they're asking you for your account number or something over certain services, it still makes the sound when you're doing that number. So,
Yeah, I think
This is true.
phones like in corporate America, like like a secretary in business offices and that, they still have standard phones that have that sound.
yeah. But most of the time people dial the number and pick up the phone and then it just starts ringing. So they don't even hear the dial tone anymore. So, anyway, Buddha, sorry.
Well, I mean that pretty much was just kind of the main gist of it. But just to round it out, Mosley did end up getting sentenced to life, and he ended up dying in prison in 2016. And the New York Times commented on like Mosley as a person, and it just said he seemed like an unlikely serial killer, soft-spoken, intelligent, no criminal record. He was 29, married, father of 2, owned his own home in Queens, operated business machines in Mount Vernon. And it says later in confessions and testimony, he said he had driven around late at night seeking victims and had killed 3 women, raped 8, and committed 30 or 40 burglaries. So he almost sounds like a fucking serial killer.
Yeah.
Like if he's literally driving around like stalking people, it's just I mean,
Not a nice guy.
yeah, what do they consider? How many people do you have to kill before you're considered an actual serial killer? And like it has to be all done by like the same MO kind of, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it like 10?
No.
No, it's definitely not 10.
Maybe 4.
Let's see.
I would say 4 or 5.
I was gonna say something else. What were we just talking about? Before this.
I do have one thing I want to add though when you're done, but
Go ahead.
it's funny you bring up this
Three,
whole
Buddha.
bystander. Huh?
3 people in a period over a month.
Oh shit, I was way off.
Nah, he's just a regular killer. He's only got 9.
You're right. No, I was going to say, it's funny you bring up this bystander effect because I literally just read a story, like, I think it happened just a
The
couple
train?
weeks. Yeah. Yeah.
That was
the
last
guy was
week.
raping. Well, yeah. Yep.
Well,
That's fucked up.
They said it lasted 8 to 9 minutes and people were recording it.
Recorded with their phones. Did you hear about that, John?
I'm sure somebody was assaulted.
Woman was raped.
Yeah, she
Oh.
was literally like assaulted, groped, and then they said he pulled her pants down and raped her for like 8 to 9 minutes before
was this at?
this was on the train.
So
But where? Like in America?
I think it was Philadelphia. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Philadelphia.
Holy shit.
It was literally on the train, and people just stood around, like either watching, ignoring, or recording. And it was like 8 or 9 minutes before the
their
cops were
phones.
able to get onto the train, and then he got arrested. Like that is
the
fucking
operator of the
crazy.
train
Because
finally
anyone that's
called.
ever been on a train, like anyone that's ever been on a train, you know how close proximity you have to be. And
Yeah.
Philadelphia is a big fucking city, so it's not like, you know, like, dude, I'm sure it's like going to the fucking train in Chicago. Like, there's not much room to fucking sit down.
no.
So you're like, what are you rubbing elbows with this dude that's just fucking like, god damn it, like, that shit gets me so riled up because I'm like, dude, like
It's depressing. Like,
It's
how many people could have stopped that?
that
these
woman.
people rather make stupid fucking TikTok videos. I'm sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
like that woman has not only just been like, I'm sure fucking like just crushed emotionally, mentally, physically, but like, how do you even trust that people will ever do the right thing again? Like, because that you literally, like, I don't know. I can't imagine like how that would just like crush your faith in humanity.
Big time. Yep.
And I don't remember what I was gonna say about whatever the
I
fuck
did not
we were
hear
just
about
talking
that. That's horrible.
Yeah, it's fucking terrible, man.
I thought maybe somebody got like, there was like a fight or something. Because you see that where like somebody's getting smacked or beat up and nobody's stopping it. Or an elderly person is getting beat on.
That makes me so fucking mad.
And I'm sure there have been times where like the elderly person provoked somebody into doing that, but you still don't. I mean,
That's when you got to be the bigger man and know
just
you're not
walk
supposed
away.
to beat up on some elderly person.
right. Oh, man, I don't even know how to recover from that. I'm really upset about that. Hey. All right. Well.
Anyway, well, now that everyone's depressed.
Yeah. Thanks. So did the person at least go to jail?
Yeah.
They arrested him. And
The operator was the only one on the fucking train that actually called the cop because he or she, I don't know if it was a he or she, heard a disturbance back behind, in the train further back, and they called 911. They got the guy, yeah. And the guy, I think, said, well, it was, of course, he said it was consensual, but.
yeah, right on the train in front of everybody.
Right. Right.
And people recorded this too?
That's what they say.
It said they had their phones out, so I mean, it's not like it did say it's on video. I don't know if the trains have video or if they were referring to cell phone video, but in the article it was listed that people
That's the
they
thing
had their
nowadays.
phones out.
That's where people go to first. How can I capture this?
Right.
Because they want to be that viral moment.
Or they just want to like destroy somebody.
Goes right back to what, John, you said a couple weeks back. We need to hit the fucking reset button. And it'll never happen, but we need to
No.
hit the reset button. And
It's
that
weird.
starts with killing off technology,
And
as far as
not
I'm
to go
concerned.
back to this Brian Laundrie thing, but like, okay, think about how often you're tracked. Not only are you tracked by your phone, but all the cameras that are like on the streets. So like, you're literally under surveillance like all the time, even like satellites. There's not a point in your life where you're not potentially being monitored. And you can't, there's no switch on a phone. That's all done through software. So you can't turn a toggle switch to say, hey, turn the mic off. You got to basically rely in good faith that software is doing exactly what it's saying it's doing. And I don't know, the way the world's going, I don't know if I necessarily believe that it is.
Did you see they found his body?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Did they actually?
Well, I said they found Santa Claus just because like he.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know what you were talking about.
But here's the thing: like, how do you find like for a month? They were in that area.
Did they positively identify him?
Yeah, they did today.
Okay.
I just don't understand like how this went on for a month.
Last I heard, I literally heard something like 2 hours ago, and they
Yeah,
said
I don't know.
all they could say were they were remains.
Yeah. No, they did DNA testing to the skeleton.
Oh, did they?
remains,
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm sure they can expedite that. But
now no one's ever going to know.
well, yeah, and I mean, I'm sure there wasn't really a whole lot of them left. So like, had he been dead for? I mean, this has been going on for almost 40 days now. Has he been dead the entire time, or? I mean, it must have been.
Yeah, I mean,
And was
probably,
it
I'm sure he took
self-inflicted,
it.
or did he get attacked by something? I mean, who knows?
Yeah, they'll take
More than
a
likely
month
it's
to
probably-
figure that out. Huh.
Yeah, more than likely it's self-inflicted, but who knows? You're right. Who knows? But that's right. Like when I talk about being tracked constantly, and then we talk about this incident where people they just sit there on their phones. Like that is the first place people go to the minute they're bored. And it's funny, like when I think back to like I think it was like 2006, 2007 when Apple announced the iPhone. Like I thought, man, this is going to be something great, but like the more I think about it, like maybe the intent was great, but it's just being used for all the wrong reasons.
It is. Yeah. I mean, look at you go to a. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna say, you go to a restaurant and you see a family, a couple kids and the parents, and this has been. I'm not the first one to notice this. This has been noticed for years. No one's even talking to each other. Everybody is sitting on their phone, looking at their phone. No one is even having a conversation because, like you said, John, people cannot keep their hands, and I'm partially guilty of it. I think we all are a little bit. Cannot keep our hands off our phones. I saw a story of one thing that said one family, or I don't know if it was a meme, they said they literally have to keep they tell the kids they have to keep their phones in the car. Everybody has to keep their phones in the car so that when they go into a restaurant or wherever they go out to eat, they actually have to have conversation. Because there's no need to have your phone on you 24/7.
They make these things they sell called phone jails. Basically, you put it in a cage and it's like a timer, and so it forces you to not be able to use it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's just like and I was talking to somebody the other day, like they kept talking about using TikTok. I'm like, everything I've heard is it's just spyware. And they're like, oh, well, I don't care. I don't have anything to hide. And I'm like, that's not all its intent. It's intent to drive your behavior and nudge you in directions and feed you information that might not necessarily be the right information. It might be the wrong information. It could be the right information. Who knows? But the fact that like they're using this to just drive behavior and keep you on it all the time.
I'm gonna get it and just put like dick pic videos nonstop.
Well, no, that's like, I know that like maybe I'm contributing to the algorithm or whatnot, but like every time I see an article about like, oh, this person wore this outfit, I'm like, why the fuck would I care? So I take the puppy who lost his waist speech from Billy Madison. And
I love it. I love that.
But like, I mean, and I'm sure that it's a way of me just saying like, okay, if I react to this material, like, is it going to keep feeding it to me? And it does. It's crazy. Like, now I just get all of this like celebrity gossip shit that I don't really care about. I'm like, what the fuck? But
And the more you unfollow them, the more that come in.
And that's the other thing too. Like, Larry's talking about Google, googly-eyed spyware. I mean, as much as I love the Google suite, like, you're just giving them all your information. So like, you make a spreadsheet, they know what you're, they can see all that stuff.
You got to use Open Office.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy though, man? Like, so it's such like a double-edged sword because yes, I agree, Rob. It's such a double-edged sword because like the mass amount of information that people generally get is from social media. And even if you take Google completely out of it, but if you did just Facebook, Instagram, whatever like the main ones people are using right now. So you can sit there and motherfuck it all you want and talk shit about it all you want. But at the end of the day, that's where the majority of people are getting the majority of their information. So it then becomes your responsibility to root through all the bullshit, sift through all of it and not allow yourself to get fucking like what you're talking about, John, where A, you're on it 24/7, or B, like you're kind of steered in one direction. But it's so fucked now. Like, even if, like, just for instance, like, not to go on a tangent, but even if you just take even the slightest bit of politics or any type of like mainstream news, dude, I mean, there's 30 articles that say one thing, 30 articles that say the exact other thing.
Right.
And it's like, which one is right?
Yeah. Did you see?
None of them could be right.
Did you see the Donald talk about it? Yeah, the Truth Social.
Yeah.
First thing here, CNN. 3 reasons why Donald Trump's new social media company is doomed to fail.
Yeah, and it's like now go pull up a right-wing site and they're going to be like, we're finally free. It's fighting big tech censorship. It's like the truth, like the truth lies somewhere in the middle,
Well,
it's. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, like, I wonder, will CNN have a account on Truth Social?
Absolutely. Unless he doesn't let them.
Yeah, and that's the part where I think that that's where I think he's going to have an edge on this.
No, see, that's the problem. Is because if you have Facebook, which is clearly like a left-leaning organization. I mean, let's just face it. They're part of the fucking federal government. But they're allowed to pick and choose and ban whoever. I mean, dude, they banned the fucking president last year. Like, the fucking president, okay? Now, all they're doing is covering for a failed administration. So if your response to that is like what you're talking about, oh, well, Trump's going to start this new fucking social media and he can pick and choose who he wants to listen to, that's not helping the situation, because now you go on Facebook and you only hear left-wing bullshit, and then you go on Trump's shit and you only hear right-wing bullshit because he's fucking blocking all the people that he doesn't want you to talk to, assuming this is what happens. He's blocking all of those people. You need to have people able to talk. Like, you need to get it from both sides so that even on the small chance that you don't get one of those fucking fanatics, like, you need to be able to have a conversation and go, okay, you know what? I do see your point, or at least I see where you're coming from. Because if all you're doing is blocking all opposing speaking points to yours, then you're only going to be surrounded by people that will never, ever disagree with you. And that's so fucking unhealthy.
Yeah. But my question is, how do we get business out of politics without destroying capitalism?
Business?
That's the question. Like, how do
that is a question for another podcast.
But I'm just saying, like, I feel like there will never ever be like that balance that you're looking for without getting rid of business influence over politics. It'll
One
never
answer,
happen.
one word answer will fix everything: decentralization. Moving on.
I wanted to say one more thing to all that, though. But
I said moving on.
so,
So Dan, all right, go ahead, Dan.
not to what you just said. Not to what you said, John, but just the whole thing going back just a little bit about the technology. And I've said this numerous times to other people. I've said it on this podcast before, and a lot of people just kind of look at me, especially when I say it to them, kind of like I have 3 heads. I'm telling you right now, think about it. Where was the human, what's what I'm looking for? how did we act in 2003, 2004, 2005? Sure, the country had problems. There was issues going on.
Yeah.
There was. Let me finish. People were still. I'm not saying everybody was happy. People still had their opinions on politics. People, were pro-Republican, pro-Democrat, whatever. Everyone still had opinions. But I'm saying that what Buddha just described is just complete division of the whole country, and
No,
it is
we were
division of the
experiencing
country.
it back
And
then too, though.
social media.
We just see on social media.
But here's
like,
what I'm
we
trying
had
to say.
All right.
How are we doing? Okay. The only way it was happening then was people that were stuck in front of their television watching either Fox or CNN. That's the only way you had it. You could go outside to your neighbor and, hey, maybe you're a friend or at a bar or something. You could bitch about, hey, I think Bush is an idiot, or I think, the Democrats did this. Or,
The echo chamber was non-existent.
well, right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Where we're at right now, where like Buddha described, everyone is engulfed in their phones and on the internet. And we're all part of it too. I know we're kind of doing it right now with the podcast, but if we hit that reset button, which we can never do, it'll never happen. So I don't know why I'm even saying it, but I liked how you worded that the other couple weeks ago, the reset button, that everyone hates each other's fucking guts. Everybody hates each other's guts. Everyone's divided. And what's fueling that fire is...
I'm trying to figure out why you're on this show. I'm joking. Sorry.
But yeah, that's what's fueling the fire is, and like Buddha said, you can go through 500 articles about something that's propaganda on either end of the spectrum, and then you look at that and you get brainwashed onto whatever you were thinking. I don't care what side of politics you're on, or if you're not even into politics, but you get brainwashed. You get pissed off. Then you start these posts and all these threads, and then you piss off other people. Then other people start fighting back and forth. Then, like Buddha said, you have this unhealthy. Now it becomes unhealthy because now all you're doing is you're filled with fucking anger of how you hate this or that, and then you never get out of it.
It's like in Ghostbusters 2 with the slime, the negative slime under the city.
Right. Good point.
We need Bobby Brown to come back in here and.
The bottom line is no one's ever going to win. No one's ever going to win. That's it. We can talk and argue about, Buddha can have an opinion on whatever. You can have it. I can have an opinion on whatever. You're never going to change other people's opinions. You could be blue in the fucking face and you're never going to change people's opinions. And it all starts, I think the root of evil is this internet. I really do. The way internet has gotten now, where it was at like in 2003, 2004, you could go on, Amazon, eBay, you could go to websites and buy shit and go to whatever. But it's just it's eroded humanity. It's eroded humanity, and we'll never be the same. We'll never be the same. And I didn't mean to go on a rant myself, but Buddha just brought it up, and I agree with Buddha on a lot of things he's saying. And I think the internet is... I say internet, social media especially, really. I don't see so much the internet, but social media is just, I think, destroyed humanity.
You need the internet's
to shut the fuck up.
The internet's fantastic. Social media is fucking murder. But the problem is, like, not to beat a dead horse, but like, when you talked about the early 2000s, like everybody had an opinion, but you just didn't go out and yell it in your neighbor's face.
Well, think about this.
And also the access to information was much smaller
Well, no, but in the last 15 years, what has happened is that these platforms have been cultivated, and now 15 years ago, there was a space there was these like little colonies, and I'm trying to word it, where it was forums for people to go that had like-minded opinions. And so those echo chambers were there, but they were segmented. And now it's gone into a place where it's not, there's no longer these lines of separation, where these chat rooms and these forums existed, where like, in order to get an opinion in, like, even if it was the outside opinion, you'd have to really make an effort to go and put yourself out there.
Right.
Now, everybody has this centralized platform where everybody's seeing everybody else's business and thoughts and feelings on things. And so,
Right.
but dude, like even in 2003, 2004, there was the big debate of the religious right versus, free speech, and where the Republican Party had a lot of people that were using religion and their moral code as a way to censor free speech. And so now I feel like the table is turned to where now, like, the left side is saying, like, well, you can't say this because it trumps what I want to say or feel. And so, like, your opinion is wrong. And so now it's like almost like this reverse bizarro world of what we saw 15 years ago. But I'm trying to figure out a way to, like, bring this back in. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that the tables have turned, and there's, like, in 2003, 2004, people are saying you can't be lewd, crude, or this type of way out in a public forum. And now people are saying that you can say anything that would not hurt my feelings or how I feel on something. And if you do, that's what's wrong. And so, like, it's like there's still some form of censorship always trying to be achieved, whether it's you're going against my moral and ethic code, or you're going against my beliefs. I guess it comes full circle. It's just
Right.
based on moral and ethics. I've gone cross-eyed. And I've gotten one person to tune out. Sweet.
Maybe it was me.
Yeah, could be.
How many people we have watching?
All right.
Can I just want to touch on one thing really quick, and then
Oops.
then we can move on.
Was that a fart? Somebody fart?
No.
I heard it. Or was that like a cat sound effect?
Oh, that
was
might have been
you,
my
didn't it?
chair.
Oh,
That was
thought it
actually
a
my
fart.
chair. That was my chair.
If there's going to be a fart, I want someone to do it into the microphone.
Wow. This is the last point of importance, and then we'll move on. For anybody that was wondering, in a historic court ruling, Pablo Escobar's infamous cocaine hippos are now legally considered people in the eye of the law, so they cannot be exterminated. That's it.
Wow.
All right.
Those words were used in England. A lot of those words were still in England before they came over. We started adapting to the English.
Well, I mean, look at America now. They all make up their own fucking words.
So,
Nice.
Another
show
classic.
sounded really nice and crisp back then. There's something to be said for all of us being in the same room at the same time.
Oh, those are the good old days, man.
Yeah.
Anyway.
At least we
All right.
stopped talking over one another.
Dan.
Yes. All right. Well, today's gonna be kind of a quick story. Have you guys have you
got
ever heard
2
of the
minutes.
Tucker? Huh?
You've got 2 minutes.
Oh, that fast? Okay. All right.
No, I have not heard of the Tucker.
Buddha?
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
We have?
You and I.
Oh, okay. All right. I was saying on the show we
Wait.
never talked about it.
All right.
So, all right. Well, the Tucker, basically, I want to just do a quick story about this car. Last week I did a story about the, autonomous driving and how technology is going crazy and moving forward. Pretty soon cars will be driving themselves with nobody in them. But I just wanted to kind of take a trip back several decades onto a car that was originally called the Tucker Torpedo. That was the original name of it. It came out in 1948, and it came out from a gentleman named Preston Tucker, obviously named after him. The car was in development for several years, and it was actually renamed the Tucker 48 for obviously the year that it came out. The reason they did that was the war had just ended, World War II had just ended, and they did not people wanted no reminding of war. So they changed it from torpedo to the 48. But the car was, first off, I should mention, the Preston Tucker was a very amazing person. I'm not going to go into everything about this guy. We'd be here for hours if I did. But he was born September 21st, 1903. He died in 1956. He was only like 53 years old when he passed away, so he didn't live a long time. But very interesting character. He was in the automotive world for a long, automotive industry from a very young age. He started at Cadillac as a teenager, as like an office boy that would, take mail to the different executives, and he had roller skates on. So he would, he always was very, just a very interesting individual. He loved cars from a very early age, and he got a job a couple times. He quit and got rehired in the police department. He, at one point, the reason he got fired was because he wanted to be in the police department because he wanted to drive fast cars, fast motorcycles, things like that. He loved cars. At one point, I think it was kind of comical, he took a torch to the dashboard of one of the police cars so that the engine heat would actually heat up the interior because they didn't have adequate heating systems back then. Well, that didn't last long. He obviously got fired from the police department once that happened. But he did a lot of other things. He did some auto racing. He built engines. He owned his own gas station. And there's a lot of things, like I said, I'm not going to go into everything. But just to kind of fast forward, he wanted to start a car company, get a new, fresh car out there. Because after World War II ended, they kind of suspended. It kind of suspended. What the hell was that?
What he do?
Sorry.
The automotive industry was suspended for a while because they were helping out with, engines and building shit for the war. So when the war ended, they had no fresh vehicles. There's obviously a 5 to 6 year development of developing new cars. And they had just gotten out of the war, so they didn't have any fresh stuff out there. The cars were still old-fashioned, really old-fashioned looking, nothing great. Well, Tucker saw this, and he knew that the public, wanted something fresh and new, something new. And that's when he started designing the Tucker 48. Well, again, it was originally the Tucker Torpedo, but it was called the 48 later. But he started developing that. And he got money. He started raising money for the new corporation. He signed a lease in July of 1946. And he started raising money by selling dealership rights and floating a $20 million stock issue through a Chicago brokerage firm. By 1947 or so, he had about $17 million in the bank. Okay, for the Tucker Corporation is what it was called. So everything started, kind of moving at that point. He got a plant to start building the cars, but there were some delays. Obviously, he planned for 60,000 cars a year. Okay. Obviously, this never ended up happening. He started running out of money. He was a great engineer, but he was not a good businessman. And historians, financial historians, have looked back at this and said, when it was all said and done, he raised right around approximately $25 million money in those days. They say he would have needed nearly $100 million to even be remotely successful with his new car. So it's obvious why it fell through. He just didn't have enough money. He ran out of money. But there was another little thing going on, and this is kind of funny because we were just kind of talking about government and all that kind of bullshit. But the Securities Exchange Commission started going after him. His company, saying that there was fraud and he had unscrupulous business practices. And between that, which just completely tarnished his name, tarnished the corporation, ultimately, he was dismissed of any charges. It was almost like a witch hunt that the SEC tried to go after him on, and for all these claims that never actually fell through. But the damage was done. By 1949, the Tucker Corporation was bankrupt. He was ruined. He tried a few other projects a few years later. Nothing worked out. And like I said, he passed away 10 years later, or 8 years later, or whatever. But between the SEC trial, like I said, and everything, it was the demise of the company. One thing I do want to bring up is, I don't know, there was a movie that came out in 1988. I never actually saw it, but it was called Tucker. And it was directed by Francis Ford, was it Coppola? How do you pronounce his name?
Coppola.
Coppola, thank you. I always get that name screwed up. He directed it, and one of the big things about that movie that a lot of people don't know, and a lot of people think they know, but it's not true, was that there was a great big conspiracy, because he needed to make this story more interesting. So the big thing that a lot of people think is that the big three, GM, Ford, Chrysler, got together with the government and this great big conspiracy to take them out. Because, and the reason that is, I'm going to get to that in a minute, was because the car itself, and that's really what I want to talk about, is the car. It was very innovative car, very way ahead of its time. That the big three, feared this. They thought this was going to screw them up because they didn't have anything like this. And they basically worked with the government and the SEC to just take them out. There's been people that worked with Tucker and worked on the car and were in the company at the time that said that's absolute BS. That never happened. The big three could care less about the Tucker because he was just a small little company at the time, and people had verified that worked with him. So, and even I believe it was just a script. It was just something they had to make the movie more interesting because the real story wasn't a whole lot to it. He ran out of money. But the guy, like I said, you can look up Preston Tucker, and there's a lot more to the story. I just went over a little bit of it. He died of cancer, by the way, in 1956, so that December 26th of 56. But really what I want to kind of go over was just the car itself. And what an amazing vehicle it was for the time. So remember, this is the mid-40s. This car had some amazing features that would not come out till decades and decades later. For one thing, it had the guy was very much into safety, okay, of the occupants of the car. So the car had a roll bar that was integrated into the roof. The steering box was actually placed behind the front axle, and that would protect the driver in the event of like a front-end collision. An amazing thing that no one would even think of anymore, but was way ahead of its time, was a windshield shatterproof glass. So that the actual glass would pop out during a collision instead of just shattering in 60 million pieces and going into people's eyes and cutting them and everything. Like that's what would happen back then. It would pop out, which is amazing. Another element that's way ahead of its time was, I don't know if you guys can pull up, if you want to pull up a photo of the car and see what it looked like, but you'll notice in the front end of it, there's a third headlight. There's a headlight right in the middle of it.
Yeah, I thought it was an emblem, but yeah, I'm seeing it.
That headlight is connected to the steering. So when you would steer the car, if you up to 10 degrees, it would churn with the steering wheel, so you could look around like a corner. This was technology that would not come out till early 2000s on cars. What they call now adaptive lighting is what they call that now. But again, a feature way the hell ahead of its time. There was no actual glove box, like a conventional glove box on the passenger side. He had storage compartments that were integrated into the doors, and the dash itself was padded. Again, it sounds funny to say that right now because we have a million airbags in cars. Mm-hmm. There was no such thing as a padded dashboard in the 40s and 50s. Also, they designed another padded area around the dash and the footwell. They called a crash chamber, and it was reinforced basically to protect the occupant, almost like a crash zone that you have now, where it would kind of buckle around the crash zone to protect the occupants. Again, that's something we just started talking about in the last 15 years, 20 years. Mm-hmm. Cars started doing that. It also had four-wheel independent suspension, which it used what's considered a rubber block. It was a rubber block that sandwiched actually between the upper and the lower control arms, instead of nowadays, in recent times, coil springs would take that place. But again, helping with the way the car drove. He had self-sealing tires on this car. Again, decades later, no one ever heard of a self-sealing tire on a car. They were like magnesium wheels, I think they called them. It had four-wheel disc brakes, and it had definitely revolutionary. It was an aircraft-inspired engine. It was 200 horsepower, 589 cubic inch, gigantic engine for the time. Fastest car on the road.
Seeing here, it was also rear-wheeled, or I'm sorry, rear-engined.
Rear-engined. Mm-hmm. Yep. Which no car was doing that either at the time. It would be another 10 years or 20 years until the Corvair came out, a rear-engine, rear-drive car. But yeah, and it was fuel-injected system. It was a fuel-injected engine, which again, unheard of. There were 51 of these cars built. I believe there's about 47 of them made right now left. I believe, but there were 51 of them made, and now I think 40 of them are with private owners, and I think 15 of them or so. I could be wrong on those numbers. Most of them are with private owners, but there's some of them in museums, obviously.
Yeah.
But the car was just amazing. It was just an amazing, so far ahead of his time. And had he raised more money and got this car off the made the car mainstream and was successful with everything, there's no doubt this car got a lot of fan attention, a lot of public's not fan attention, public attention. They loved the way the car looked. They loved everything about it. Obviously, by the end of the whole trial and everything, the public then turned on them and were disgusted. They wanted their money back. People that bought stock in the company, then he was a villain basically, and it was a big fraud. Looked like a big fraud. The guy did not have bad intentions, but that's just the way things worked out. And and again, it all started with the Security Exchange Commission, that trial that they had, and like I said, it went bankrupt in '49. But I really didn't feel like going into so much of him. I kind of just wanted to give a little bit about him, but. He's an interesting character to look up if you have time to look him up. But it's just an amazing car. It's just, I tell you what, I don't really care for that era of cars, but I think it's kind of an interesting looking car. It's not ugly looking, it's not great looking, but it's at the time it was definitely a lot more unique looking than anything that was on the road at that time.
Yeah. I'm just looking here too. It says that it had a troubled premiere, and this is off the wiki page. Over 3,000 people showed up at the event in Chicago for lunch, a train tour of the plant, and the unveiling of the first prototype. The unveiling appeared doomed, however, last-minute problems cropped up. The night before the premiere, two of the prototype's independent suspension arms snapped under the car's weight. Minor problems were fixed, and the car was presentable by the time of the premiere. However, the experimental 589 engine was extremely loud. Tucker told the band to play as loud as possible to drown out the noise. Additionally, the high-voltage starter required the use of outside power to get the engine started, so Tucker had the engineering team keep the engine running during the entire event, fearing that the public would see how much effort was required to get the engine started.
Right.
So,
and I forgot to mention that event.
It's funny, you think about it and you hear things you read things like this about this car. Funny, when Steve Jobs first showed off the first iPhone, they had this thing called the happy path, that if he did not follow the correct path, the phone would fail during demonstration. So not just in these cars, but in many things where people or business people are trying to drum up and get investors, and people interested in the product before it's actually out. What's just being held together by duct tape and sheer willpower.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot to mention that event because I did look that up. And one of the other things is the car did not have reverse. They couldn't reverse the car out of there. So, yeah, it was, and unfortunate. The guy really, everything I read about him, he was a great guy. He really wanted to, do something good. He wanted to give the public, but he just did not have the capital. He did not have the money. Yeah. And the SEC basically had a witch hunt because they had loaned millions and millions of dollars. Not they had loaned, but a similar situation happened with Kaiser Frazer at the time in the 50s, and with fraudulent crap going on. He had went through millions of dollars with his company. I forget his first name right now, but he went through millions. And but the difference between that is he was kind of an industrialist. He had very good relationships with bankers, unions, So he was able to raise all kind of money, and Tucker just simply did not have those kind of resources at that time.
I'm sure it's also just the government working hand in hand with the auto industry, seeing him as a threat and just bankrupting him with all this fucking bullshit. And then,
Now,
basically just cutting him out of the equation.
Right.
Yeah, there could be something said to that which would lend some kind of relevance to the story that came out of the Tucker movie, which, a lot of people do look at that story and they say, we could see the big three being threatened by this. And, working with the government, like you said, to bring all this bad publicity, things. General Motors and Ford were the most the biggest corporations in the world at that time. There was no Apple and shit like that. General Motors was the biggest corporation, most powerful corporation in the world in the 50s, 60s, So, they certainly could have. They could do all kind of shit back then. General Motors got away with all kind of bad shit back in those days. But the story from the Tucker people that worked at Tucker and the executives and historians all agree that, even though that made a great story on the movie, it really wasn't the case. SEC, they had a witch hunt, which that's unfortunate that they did that. But the big three supposedly had nothing to do with it. So
supposedly,
that's okay.
I saw one thing here too that one of them, the car was appraised in 2011 for some television show at $1.2 million, 2011 money. So
yeah, yep.
It's got a cool style. It's like a sharp looking car.
Right. Yeah. He had some of the most talented people in the auto industry at the time helping him, design that car and engineers and everything. And, like you said, Buddha, for what they had out at the time, if you look at other mid-40s cars, nothing looks as good as that thing does. That thing looks really sharp and I don't want to say not as good as it, but it definitely had a fresh, it was what America wanted. America was coming out of the war. They wanted something new, something fresh, and he delivered with it, and it's just unfortunate that it just never did anything other than those 51 that he built.
Yeah. So a price increase by 21.95% would put the value of that car today at $1,463,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. I'm about to get real depressed here.
I'm still
1250 is worth $15.24 today. $12.50.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that a fart?
No, that was moving my glasses. I'm still I still think that 1940 Mercury Coupe is like the coolest thing to come out of the 40s car style wise. I fucking love that car.
Yeah, that's not a bad looking vehicle. That's what
you got to chop the top on it though. I don't like the top stock, but with the chop top, that is the coolest
what's
fucking
the year?
It's a 1940 Mercury Coupe. That is like the coolest fucking car.
One thing
Eddie
too,
Valiant car.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
One thing too I want to bring up real quick, getting back to Tucker, and I actually almost forgot to mention this, was one of the people though, kind of what Buddha was just saying about the whole, bullshit with government and everything going after him. A guy named Otto Kerner Jr., he was a U.S. attorney, and he was one of the people that was very much going after the Tucker Corporation at the time, with the SEC, and I think he worked with them somehow. Later on, I believe it might have been the 60s or 70s, he was convicted on 17 counts of bribery, conspiracy, perjury, and related charges for stock fraud in 1974. So, what's that tell you? That lends a lot to what Buddha just said there about, bullshit going on. So here's a guy that went after Tucker for unscrupulous business practices, and he's later convicted of bribery, conspiracy, perjury, and all that fun stuff.
Huh. Well,
that's it. That's my story.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to shut it down for this week. So, next week we'll go into, and I'll change the title of the video, but we'll go into the Twilight Zone curse. We kind of went on a little bit of a tangent tonight. I'm okay with it. I hope you are too. But yeah, tune in next week, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, for all things Type 3. You guys have anything left to add?
I'm good.
No, I think we're good.
All right. Well, for Steve Gibson, Daniel Rady, Lawrence of the Simpson, Rob Taglarina, Alex Badzinski, Bob Tobicash, all my dear friends that have joined me on this journey at some point in the evening over the last, dare I say, 12 years or so. So 2010, I think, was doing it the first time. So almost 11 years. This is Type 3 TV. Say goodnight, buddy.
Good night, baby.